A new day in the Hong Kong legislature without pro-democracy lawmakers. These seats are usually occupied by Hong Kong's democratic parliamentarians, but now they're empty. As the session got underway, a day after the mass walkout, one of the lawmakers resigning in solidarity staged a protest, rolling out a banner in the foyer.
I just protest against Carrie Lam, the chief executive, decision to disqualify our colleagues, which is absolutely absurd that they abuse their powers to disqualify a legislative councillors.
Together we stand!
Together we stand!
They were the last remaining pro-democracy lawmakers in Hong Kong. They resigned in solidarity with their colleagues, who were deemed threats to national security by Beijing. It's yet another blow for the pro-democracy movement. The decision made by the NPCSC is ridiculous. It shows that the central government has completely given up on the basic law and the principle of one country, two systems. Beijing defended the new resolution and denied it is restricting Hong Kong's special freedoms. They were implemented in 1997 after the city was handed back to China from British rule. It is a necessary measure in order to maintain the rule of law in Hong Kong and the constitutional order of the special autonomous region. It is rational, reasonable, and in line with the Constitution and laws. Beijing recently moved to clamp down on opposition voices in Hong Kong by imposing a national security law after months of anti-government protests rocked the city last year. Hong Kong's semi-autonomous status was originally guaranteed until 2047, but for some, the end date has already arrived.
Now, for more on this story, let's bring in DW's Matthias Böllinger in Beijing and DW's Joyce Lee in Hong Kong. Welcome to you both. Joyce, let's start with you. The lawmakers there have just handed in their resignations. What have they been saying?
Yes, most of them have already handed in their resignation, and they will take effect on today, tomorrow, or the 1st of December. The convener of the pan-democratic camp, Wu Chi-wai, said that he hopes that the mass resignation would show the entire world how ridiculous is Beijing's decision to expel the 4 pro-democracy lawmakers, as well as how Beijing has totally destroyed the one country, two systems framework in Hong Kong.
Matthias, China has called this mass resignation a political farce. What does this kind of language mean?
Yeah, China sometimes has a way with words in that regard. It has not only called this a farce, it has also called this a blatant challenge to the central government. I think it's up to the central government to decide whether they want to be challenged by a farce, but the language is not unusual. This is how China reacts when it feels that something is really at stake. China has moved forward with controlling Hong Kong in the past few months. It has disqualified these 4 lawmakers, but it has also rescheduled or postponed the elections that were due in September. So anyway, this parliament was already a parliament by the grace of Beijing, and it is pretty clear that the opposition plays no role in what Beijing sees as the future for Hong Kong.
Joyce, one consequence of this is that the pro-democracy movement has now lost its voice in the legislature. How will they continue?
Yes, with the disqualification of the 4 pro-democracy lawmakers yesterday and the mass resignation that follows, Hong Kong's legislation is in effect becoming a single voice legislature without any meaningful opposition voices in the council. So a lot of the resigned lawmakers are saying that they will fight on outside the Legislative Council. But a lot of people doubt that under the sweeping national security law imposed by Beijing in July, is that still possible to, take the streets and keep the protests going on?
Joyce, some say that this mass resignation then, as you just said, inadvertently played into China's hands.
Yes, that's true. Actually, in yesterday's press conference, Hong Kong's leader, Carrie Lam, said that she was excited because the Legislative Council would be more effectively passing bills and laws proposed by the government. So the mass resignation is actually within the calculation of the pro-Beijing camp, and it has, some pro-democracy supporters are criticizing that it is too late for the lawmakers to resign. They should have resigned, a month earlier before this legislature.
Matthias Büllinger in Beijing, Joyce Lee in Hong Kong. Thank you very much for your contribution.